Dozens of the rich and famous accused of bribing their kids' way into college.
These are people that always say, we want diversity. We want the minorities to be involved. And now look what they're doing. Oh, let's just give millions and then pay for our kids to get into the school.
The FAA still stands behind their decision that there is no issue to ground the Boeing 737 MAX planes.
As a pilot, I know how diligent the FAA is. They do a very good job of what they do.
CNN hit with a $275 million lawsuit by the Covington Catholic student.
People want to see news organizations being held responsible if they knowingly push false information.
Elizabeth Warren walking a slippery slope. The 2020 presidential candidate blasting big tech firms that she took donations from.
Amazon, Facebook, Google. My view is break those things apart.
I appreciate the energy you show. Save it a little longer. I may need it in a few weeks.
This was actually in Varsity Blues, the movie, and Operation Varsity Blue is what caught a bunch of rich and famous.
Everyone's talking about it this morning.
Yeah, I saw some kids yesterday in the street in New York City, and I looked at them. I was wondering. I asked them, "Why are you so happy?" And they said, "Well, because Meatless Monday's over, and they were ever had meat yesterday, so that was good news."
It was Two Meat Tuesday,
right? Yeah, so they could double down on roast beef or any type of steakums because we know that our great mayor is going to save the planet one piece of beef at a time, and we owe him that.
It's creating a whole new black market in the schools for jerky.
That's good. And by the way, he's going to run for president. He's going to take, with the wind at his back on Meatless Mondays, he's going to walk right through the White House.
And I think that kind of platform, he will lose Iowa. Just saying.
I think so.
Just saying.
Yeah. All right, 2 minutes in.
And every southern state and every state in the heartland.
They polled to see how the mayor was doing, and everyone answered the same way. Who?
So here's the big news about Aunt Becky.
Right. Scandals of the rich and famous. Operation Varsity Blues exposing a nationwide college admissions scheme.
Actress Felicity Huffman and Lori Loughlin, also known as Aunt Becky, among 33 parents have been charged. Loughlin expected to turn herself in later today, I believe in California.
All right, Todd Pyro joins us from the newsroom with the latest. Todd, this is unbelievable.
Yeah, this is almost as wild as Meatless Mondays, guys. Huffman already appearing in federal court, released on bond. The Desperate Housewives star allegedly met with a witness who said he could control an SAT testing center and arrange for someone to proctor her daughter's test and correct it. As for Loughlin, she and her fashion designer husband, Massimo Giannulli, are accused of paying $500,000 in bribes for their daughters to be crew recruits at USC, even though they never rode before. Here's one of those daughters talking about her college experience.
I don't know how much of school I'm going to attend, but I'm going to go in and talk to my deans and everyone and hope that I can try and balance it all. But I do want the experience of like game days, partying. I don't really care about school, as you guys all know.
That's one approach. A total of 50 people, including 9 coaches and 1 high-ranking athletics administrator, indicted. Big-time schools targeted, including Georgetown, Yale, Stanford, University of Texas, USC, and UCLA. The man at the center, William Singer, pleading guilty to taking $25 million, using some of that for bribes and pocketing the rest.
Make no mistake, this is not a case where parents were acting in the best interests of their children. This is a case where they flaunted their wealth, sparing no expense, to cheat the system.
And we could just be scratching the surface on this. The feds adding the investigation continues. More people could be charged.
All right, Todd, thank you very much. You know, there are a lot of prominent Americans who do hire college coaches for their kids. You know, when they're in high school, the college coach will take a look at your transcript, say, you should get a tutor, you should do more community service, you should really work on your essay. Who knew that this particular college counselor, this Rick Singer, was described himself as a master coach in college counseling at an organization he referred to as the Key, and he was able to, it is alleged, pay off people to take tests for kids and then pretend that your kid is an elite athlete, get them on a team, that they would never play for.
But so there's so many things unique about this story and yet disturbing. And one of which is usually you focus on big-time revenue sports that are so tempting with gambling and other things to get the best players because it means the most money, like Duke basketball, Kentucky. I'm not saying there's scandals there, but that's where you look. In football, colleges, you see Rick Pitino got caught up in something last year. But now they have things like water polo. They have things like sailing are involved in
pole vaulting?
Yeah, pole vaulting. Yeah, that's track.
I read that one.
Just real quick, this senior associate athletic director at USC's athletic department was fired over $2.7 million in bribes to the tennis coach, which will label consulting fees. So this coach got a ton of money in order to make roster slots for kids that don't even play the sport, and they still were successful.
You know, you mentioned the fees. Apparently this guy set this, had a special almost charity designation with the way it is described. Apparently, not charity designation, but the parents were able to actually write off the money they were paying to get
Someone
their kids into college.
Someone gave $15,000 to him and said it was to a charity.
Yeah, the money was funneled through Singer's IRS-approved charity, the Key Foundation.
And then I read one parent paid more than $6 million to him. We have the affidavit here. It's very big. It's more than 200 pages. Yeah. If you want to read it, you can go online and look through it. It's unbelievable because what happened is these kids were taking the place in school of someone who actually deserved to be there and really worked hard for it. Well, and it's teaching, the parents are teaching their kids, you can lie, we'll pay for you, you don't have to do the hard work. Lori Loughlin's one of them. She's been on our show. She was Aunt Becky on Full House.
And by the way, in real life, she's very nice.
She's so nice. I was really disappointed when I read this. Now, granted, she hasn't been convicted of this yet, so this will all play out in the courts. But here she is when she was on the Today Show talking about her daughter going to college.
I think I'm in complete denial. Yeah? I really am, because when I think about it too much, it will make me cry. Really? So I got to stop.
She was told she's been indicted for giving a combined $500,000 to get her two daughters into the University of Southern California.
Right. Meanwhile, you've got another celebrity, Rob Lowe, taking a look at what happened, and he tweeted this out yesterday, where he is pictured with his son, and it simply reads, "Very proud of my honest, hardworking sons." He later deleted that. What does Lawrence Jones from Campus Reform make of this? Listen.
When you have fraudulent behavior like this that is trained in the next generation, that everything should just be given to them, that's a problem. We have a generation that is being coddled by their parents. They're going into college and they believe that everything should be given to them. Just imagine what's going to happen to these kids when they go into workforce. These are people that always say, we want diversity. We want the minorities to be involved. We want people that are poor and less fortunate to have the opportunity to go to these colleges. And now look what they're doing. Oh, let's just give millions and then pay for our kids to get into the school.
Okay, we asked you what you thought. We got a lot of response.
That's right. This is from Simone. All their kids should be kicked out and have to retest.
Oh, no, they absolutely have to be kicked out right away, just like the coaches had to be fired. James says we have created a sense of entitlement not only for our children, but for some adults.
And Dale tweeted this out. These Hollywood people want college diversity in front of everyone's kids, but theirs. Disgusting. Right now, it looks like the only way, if you're really rich, that you're going to be able to get your kids into college is to build a new science building for $100 million. Which is completely legal.
Yeah, that might be problematic.
Listen, if you're a parent out there, let your kid apply for college by themselves. Let them fill out the application. Let them line up the tutors and sign up for the classes. Maybe Latin, so you can learn the derivative of these words and do better on the language segments. Let your kids do the work. Let your kids apply for internships. These parents are getting way too involved in their kids' lives.
Well, and if you're a helicopter parent, the child's whole life.
How are they going to learn? How are they going to learn? You're sending them off to college, and they're not even prepared.
Just don't break the law. Meanwhile, you know, sometimes we show images of the First Lady at different events, going places. Over at The View, they have suggested, you know, they're looking at the internet. There is a conspiracy theory that's floating around that we're describing it as Melania Trump goes different places. That's not really her. Here's a little montage of that conspiracy theory on The View.
Fake Melania online conspiracy theory is back. That one does not look like her. Sorry. I wasn't going to go along with this, but that one in that picture doesn't look like her. It's a different shaped face.
Melania is a very tall, statuesque woman. And the one that we saw, the first one that we showed, she looks kind of short.
Let's have fun with Melania. She's beautiful, and we're doing this in jest. But does that
So if that's not Melania, where is she? And who is this body double? There is a whole thing online. It's hashtag fake Melania.
Yeah, well, Melania Trump's team, they ripped The View. They said it's shameful. Stephanie Grisham, she tweeted this out. She said the First Lady and the President traveled to Alabama to pay their respects and comfort victims of the tornado devastation. In typical fashion, The View chooses to laugh in the face of tragedy. Shameful.
Yeah, you could have some more comments. I just think it's pretty amazing that, of all these first ladies on all the covers of all the magazines, as far as I've ever been, from Nancy Reagan to Barbara Bush to obviously to Michelle Obama, this is the most one of the most beautiful women in the world, let alone ever to occupy the White House. You don't see her on any magazines at any time. They should be inventing magazines to put her on.
Well, maybe they don't think it's the real Melania.
No, that's true too.
Who knows?
You're right. One of the prettiest. She's so smart. She speaks so many different languages, and one of the most powerful women in our country.
And has worked as a fashion model, so you would think they would put her on a fashion magazine.
Good point.
Not so much.
Now let's go over to Jillian. Jillian, would you do me a favor? Would you do this update in English?
Yes, but Brian, if you just look straight ahead.
There you go. Sorry. In other words, I broke the illusion? Okay, I apologize.
You're just looking the wrong direction.
Couldn't you have told me that break so I look a little less awkward? It's unbelievable.
No, I couldn't actually. Okay, we do have some serious news to get to. So we start with this Fox News alert. The Wall Street Journal just reporting the pilot of the deadly Ethiopian Airlines flight reported having flight control problems before the crash. The Journal also reporting the plane's black box will be sent to Europe for analysis. This as the FAA declines to ground the Boeing 737 MAX 8 planes in the U.S. after 2 deadly crashes in months. Aviation expert Mike Bailey joined us earlier. He says he would not fly on the plane.
The FAA does a very good job what they do, and they strictly look at data and the facts. I would not fly on the airplane because we just don't know. We have 2 planes that crashed, and there's still uncertainty out there.
The FAA says there's no basis for grounding the planes, despite other countries doing so. 157 people died in the crash. Family and friends will say their final goodbyes today to a sheriff's deputy killed in the line of duty. Deputy Jacob Keltner was gunned down while trying to serve an arrest warrant at a hotel in Illinois. His accused killer, Floyd Brown, could face the death penalty. Hundreds showed up for the deputy's memorial service yesterday. A Texas roadhouse in the Illinois town also paying respects to the husband and father of 2, setting this fallen hero table. Today, Paul Manafort will be sentenced in his second criminal case. President Trump's former campaign chairman is facing up to a decade behind bars on conspiracy charges. Last week, Manafort was sentenced to 4 years in prison for tax and bank fraud. Meanwhile, the president's former national security advisor, Michael Flynn, is asking for another delay in his sentencing for lying to the FBI. And how about this? The football world stunned at
around companies like Amazon, Facebook, Google is now referred to by venture capitalists as the kill zone. So my view is break those things apart and we will have a much more competitive, robust market in America.
Really? Well, as Elizabeth Warren pushes to break up big tech, she apparently had no problem taking money from them. The 2020 hopeful reportedly taking at least $90,000 in donations from workers at those same firms she railed against yesterday, but did not mention the contributions.
Our next guest calling out the hypocrisy here. Stuart Varney is the host of Varney and Company on the Fox Business Network and joins us now. Stuart, why would she take their money, or why are they giving her money if she wants to break it up?
That's the question. Why are they giving $90,000 between 2010 and 2018? The answer is that the employees of Facebook, Google, and Amazon are heavily left-wing and support the politics of Elizabeth Warren, if not necessarily her intention to break up Facebook, Amazon, and Google. But I think that the $2,700 which she received from Sheryl Sandberg, number 2 at Facebook, and she got that money just in September. That was a lousy investment on the part of Sheryl Sandberg, wasn't it? Right. Because here you're giving money to a politician who wants to break up your company.
But the issue is somewhat going across party lines. I found it very interesting. Rupert Murdoch weighed in yesterday and says Google, breaking up Google, not a bad idea. And Ted Cruz came out and said breaking up Facebook. I agree with Elizabeth Warren on that. So this is kind of an interesting issue, isn't it?
Well, look, there's 2 sides to this story. On the one side, you have these job creators, and that's what Facebook, Amazon, and Google are. They're platforms which allow the internetization, if I can use that word, of lots of other industries. Massive increases in efficiency and jobs outside those three companies. Now, if you break them up, you stop the flow of capital creating new jobs. The other side of the coin is, and this is my argument, they've got too much power over us as individuals. Facebook and Google know absolutely everything about you. Absolutely everything about you and another couple of billion people around the world. That power is dangerous. What will a future owner of Facebook or the runner of Facebook, what will they do with that power? The opportunity is there to cause grave political mischief. I mean, if you want to control a society, having information about every single individual, like they do in China, that's a dangerous situation.
Right, but she is not suggesting break them up and your privacy will be better saved. It's just, it's that popular thing to do right now. Just
look, if you fine them when they play fast and loose with your privacy, then fine them.
Stuart,
that's what you do.
Thank you, Stuart.
Watch Stuart on Fox Business Network, 9 to noon. Meanwhile, straight ahead, talk about messing with the wrong guy.
Trying to steal something? No. Huh? Get here. Come here.
What does Dr. Oz think about a man running after another man?
Dr. Oz is going to talk about... Order! Chaos in the UK after Parliament blocks Theresa May's Brexit deal for a second time.
Yep. Parliament will vote again today on whether the UK will finally leave the European Union and if they're going to do it without a deal or delay its exit entirely.
Benjamin Hall joins us live in London with more. Hey, Benjamin.
Yeah, hi, Brian, Stephen Ainsley. Well, yes, another embarrassing defeat for Theresa May, and one which effectively leaves her Brexit deal dead in the water. This does have major implications, though, not just for the UK, but also for the US and the relationship between the two. And today, as you point out, MPs will vote on what they want next. May suffered a loss of 149 votes last night, and it leaves the country now in chaos. After her defeat, she suggested the remaining options.
Does it want to hold a second referendum? Does it want to leave with a deal, but not this deal?
So those are the two options ahead on which they will now vote. One is that short delay of Brexit, try to get more concessions. The other, a no-deal Brexit, which would mean a clean break from the EU just 16 days from now with no arrangements in place. Some say that would be an economic disaster. Others, though, are cheering it. Supporters of a no-deal Brexit say it would bring the US and the UK ever closer, allowing a wide-ranging free trade deal between the two countries, which could offer low-tariff access to the British market, things like US liquid natural gas, agriculture, pharmaceuticals, and so much more. At the moment, access to UK markets is controlled by EU regulations. That would all be moved to the side. President Trump has championed this kind of a deal, and later today we'll see whether Parliament goes for it. Back to you.
Benjamin Hall in London, thank you.
Thank you.
What a mess.
Meanwhile, switching gears, low-carb diets are very trendy this year. In fact, the keto diet was the most Googled diet of 2018.
But a new study sounding the alarm on diets like keto and Atkins and paleo, suggesting low-carb might actually be hazardous to your health.
And this is news to Dr. Oz. We brought him here. We didn't tell him why. No, I'm only kidding. You've been researching this. Are we going to survive the keto diet?
We are. Well, keto, paleo, these are the most searched diets on the internet. Yeah. We cover them on the show all the time. But it hasn't been studied well from a general health perspective. We know people lose weight, especially some folks. If your body looks like a square or a brick, then you tend to lose weight on these diets because it changes your internal hormones. But this important study from the American College of Cardiology, one of the first of its kind, looked at 13,000 people who were not in this irregular heartbeat called AFib. And it found that when you had less carbohydrates in your diet, you seem to have more atrial fibrillation. Let me just explain what that is. I have an animation real quickly showing you what the heart looks like when it's beating normally, and then we're going to transition to the AFib. And it's like, see, the left side is normal. The top part of the heart's beating and contracting. Oh, my goodness. It's like a fuel injector. On the right side, the heart's beating like a bag of worms. And the problem with that is the blood accumulates, forms clots, And atrial fibrillation, therefore, 5 times increases the chance of you having a stroke.
Oh, my
Because
goodness.
when there's clot in the heart, it throws it.
I don't think anybody knew about that. So many people have talked about the keto diet. If you're unfamiliar with it, we've got a chart that shows you the keto diet is about 20% protein, fish, grass-fed beef, beans, legumes, 75% healthy fats like avocados, coconut, stuff like that, and 5% carbs. It really limits the number of carbs. But Dr. Oz, you and I have talked about this. I was on the keto diet for a while, and I had a headache that would not ever go away. And then I wound up switching out of it.
Well, there are a lot of folks who have a little bit of a malaise around it. You get very irritable. People are not in a
What are you talking about?
What? You get it's not even hangry. You just can't deal with low insulin, low sugar levels. Your body needs more sugar. Part of the reason we go for comfort food is it makes us feel good.
Yeah.
When you have 0 of that stuff, you feel the opposite of good. And then the question becomes, well, is it okay long term? And because it's out there in such a big way, some people are beginning to look at it. This is fascinating because it begs the issue why. It's not just about being in a bad mood. What is it about super low carb diets that might be dangerous? And here's the deal. When you get rid of all your carbs, you often get rid of some of the produce. While produce is really important for your gut, it feeds the right bacteria. It actually creates a calmness in your intestines, reduces inflammation. When you replace the carbs with fatty foods, the lard, butter, right, the unhealthy fats,
a lot of ghee,
right, GHEE, then you end up with pro-inflammatory hormones and conditions. So inflammation leads to irregular heartbeats because it irritates the heart muscle. The muscle itself becomes swollen.
So what the diet should we go for?
I actually think the diets that your colleague in Norm, Steve, and I have talked about is the best one. It's called the Pegan diet. If it's the paleo, marries the vegan diet. So that means, A, you can be around other people because the biggest problem...
You
get to eat some meat. You can replace 1 of the 3 servings of vegetables with some meat so you can be sociable. Because the biggest problem with a good diet is you get lonely. Because your friends are having a great time. You can't. But the other thing is, that's much more closely mimics the Mediterranean diet. The diet that had the longest track record, thousands of years, people eating food that's relatively balanced, colorful fruits and vegetables. You can have healthy fats, the olive oils of the world. You can have some meat, but not too much, the Greek salads. And people just tend to live a long time with these kinds of diets.
And don't get Weight Watchers. Oprah is a friend of yours. You want to?
I actually love Weight Watchers, and I really do love what they're doing with WW, making it healthy and more about your broader life. But fundamentally, you have to find a diet that is balanced because your body will tell if you can't.
You mean fair and balanced?
Yes, fair and balanced.
Okay.
Such a good brand idea.
Thank you very much. All right,
Thanks,
Dr. Oz. We'll be watching you later today.
Thank you.
Okay, Joe Biden certainly sounds like he is running for president.
I appreciate the energy you showed when I got up here. Save it a little longer. I may need it in a few weeks.
But what are his chances? We're going to take a look.
And social media erupting with jokes after the arrest of Aunt Becky, actress Lori Loughlin. Carly Shimkus at the top trends from the big scandal, and she joins us coming up.
Hey, Carly.
Hey, Carly.
How are you?
Rarely does the President of the United States interrupt primetime television to warn us about a completely made-up thing.
President Trump has been able to remain tan despite the bad winter weather. Thanks to, quote, good genes and not, as I had assumed, the heat.
Negotiating Trump just couldn't get Kim to make a deal. So between Kim Jong-un and Nancy Pelosi, we found Trump's biggest weakness, pantsuits.
With House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, she said in the interview, when it comes to the president, he's just not worth it. Okay, that's clearly reverse psychology. Nah, I am worth it, Nancy.
And what you're not witnessing, what you're witnessing and hearing in a montage is not something you wouldn't have heard last night on all 3 major late night shows.
Every late night show.
Yeah, every late night show. It's a series of not political jokes, anti-Trump jokes. And amongst the people that are upset by this, and I did one of my senior projects on the history of late night television. So I really, for some reason, in my limited scope and my lack of friends, I'm obsessed with late night TV. I've never seen anything like it. This is the Daily Show on steroids every night. Well, I got the Daily Show had an angle, and that was fine, and a lot of it was creative, especially Jon Stewart's era, and that was one point of view. It was anti-Bush, it was pro-Obama. Every show is anti-Trump, and I'm not the only one who have noticed that.
Yeah, Jay Leno was on another network talking about this and calling for civility. He said, everyone knows your politics. It's so one-sided. Listen.
Everything now is, if people don't like your politics,
everyone has to know your politics. But when people see you as one-sided, it just makes it tough. Now it's all very serious. Everything is just so I just like see a bit of civility come back to it, you know. The theory when we did the show was you just watch the news, we'll make fun of the news and get your mind off the news. Well, now people just want to be on the news all the time. So you just have one subject, so it's the same topic every night, which makes it very hard. I mean, all the comics, Jimmy and Colbert and everybody else, it's tough when that's the only topic out there.
Right, and here's the thing. When you take a side on television, you alienate half the country. So if you are working for a network that is in the business of making money, your business model is the best we can do is only half the country. You go back 30 years ago, before Jay Leno, you had Johnny Carson. Johnny Carson was a guy who would come on every night, and the whole country would turn on because he would be talking about things in the news. And he would poke fun at Republicans and Democrats, but it was something you could watch with your family. It didn't really offend you to the point. It was just hilarious. And at the end of the monologue, you'd go to bed and you'd tune in the next day because he never really crossed the political line.
Well, if you're a Democrat, you probably love these late night shows. But for some people that I know in South Carolina, I was just having this conversation with them, they missed the Johnny Carsons of the world, the ones that were really funny and didn't dive into politics. And if they did, they were making fun of both sides.
Exactly.
But didn't they see ratings go up, Brian, when they started bashing the president?
Here's the deal. Jimmy Fallon was winning. His ratings went up after Leno left and Conan was a disaster. His go up. And then when Donald Trump is elected, Stephen Colbert takes over by being the one-stop shopping anti-Trump channel. So they're getting the wrong message. If you think that they want to broaden their audience and grow their audience by being more balanced, it's wrong. Stephen Colbert would not be number one if he didn't spend his entire monologue finding creative ways to bash the president. And they are more concerned with making sure this president isn't normalized through comedy and through news than they are about getting ratings. They would sacrifice that to take this guy down.
Well, it would be interesting if there were a late night host who would actually take shots at both sides. What do you think about this? Email us, friends@foxnews.com. Also, we are on Facebook on this Wednesday morning.
And just to add one other thing, Jimmy Fallon is still being skewered because he normalized President Trump when he was candidate Trump. Remember he said, touch my hair, and he had fun with it? He had to apologize for acting like a normal human being.
All right, so what do you think? Let us know. In the meantime, time for some news.
Okay, Jillian has it for us. Hey, Jillian. I think I have a solution. Brian, you could host a late night show because you have time for that.
I do. I have 4 hours of sleep anyway. Why am I sleeping?
You don't need that.
And I'll go right from that stage to this.
Exactly. Yes. Okay. I think we solved that. Good talk, guys. Let's get you caught up on your news, starting with this story. An illegal immigrant ICE tried to detain 9 times is facing murder charges. Police in California say the El Salvador national stalked Bambi Larson before stabbing her to death. Authorities say he had known gang ties and faced previous drug and burglary charges. ICE now calling for lawmakers in the sanctuary city to take action, saying, quote, how many more people have to be killed or injured? California Governor Gavin Newsom is expected to sign an executive order today to stop death penalty executions. The Democratic lawmaker citing his moral conflict with capital punishment. The order will halt all executions for the state's 737 inmates currently on death row. This defies voters who in 2016 backed a measure to speed up executions. A heroic business owner stops an attempted kidnapping. Look at the surveillance video that's showing a woman taking a 6-year-old boy from his Florida art gallery. He said something didn't feel right, so he followed them.
I could not live with myself if things had gone differently, so there was no hesitation.
The woman was later arrested and charged with kidnapping. A man races past firefighters, risking his own life to save his family dog from his burning home in California. Watch this.
All right.
Oh, after fighting through the flames and heavy smoke, the man emerges minutes later with his dog, Cabana. Both suffered minor injuries, but they are expected to be okay. Oh,
Thank you so much.
I feel like I hope I would do the same
so
thing.
glad that turned out okay.
No kidding. All right. Thank you very much. Now, off to the Weather Center. Janice Dean joins us. And Janice, you were telling us yesterday about a big storm, and there it is behind you.
Yeah, 70 million people will be potentially affected by this storm system across the Plain States, bringing blizzard conditions, potential tornadoes, and flash flooding. And this storm is going to rapidly strengthen within the next several hours. Possibly one of the strongest storms Kansas has ever expected. So this is a big deal. The snow behind this, we could get a foot or more of snow. Blizzard conditions also for millions of folks across the northern and central Rockies. Ahead of this, we could see flash flooding. So that's going to be a big deal. Here are your winter weather advisories, the flood warnings here, the blizzard conditions here with hurricane force winds blowing this snow around. So this is going to be a big deal. The severe weather threat across the Mississippi and Tennessee River Valley is something we're also going to watch this afternoon. Large hail, damaging winds, and tornadoes. Big deal, guys. We'll watch this throughout the day today. Steve Ainsley Bryan.
I got to tell my family out in Kansas.
Yes, sir.
Biggest
you got
storm.
it.
Oh, my goodness. All right,
Thanks,
JD,
Janice.
thank you very much. Okay.
All right, meanwhile, 20 minutes before the top of the hour, you got a big show ahead. According to my rundown, Stuart Varney is scheduled to show up. Then Dr. Oz separately. Jason Chaffetz, former chairman of Oversight, will be here live. And Tammy Bruce on Fox and Friends this morning. I kid you not.
And Felicity Huffman and Lori Loughlin both charged in that massive college scam, paying bribes to allegedly get their kids into school. Lawrence Jones says this is embarrassing for parents everywhere, and he joins us now.
Good morning, Lawrence. How are you?
Good morning. Welcome back. Some quick headlines now. Ohio gets the green light to cut off funding for Planned Parenthood. A federal appeals court upholding an Ohio law barring state funding for health care providers that offer abortions. Planned Parenthood stands to lose $1.5 million from the state health department. And Amazon removes 2 books from its online marketplace that promote autism cures and vaccination misinformation. The books claim children can be cured by ingesting and bathing in potentially toxic bleach, along with taking medicine meant to treat arsenic and lead poisoning. Ainsley.
All right. Thank you, Jillian. Television actresses Felicity Huffman and Lori Loughlin are among the dozens facing charges in what prosecutors are calling the largest college cheating scam ever.
Those charged are accused of paying bribes to get their kids into fancy colleges, including Yale, Stanford, and the University of Southern California, USC.
Yeah, let's bring in Fox News contributor Lawrence Jones. He's also editor-in-chief of campusreform.org. I was floored by this. And obviously, the blue chips and all these stories is about elite athletes getting paid to go to schools. What about non-athletes being given admission to schools to play in sports they've never even played?
That's exactly right. The reason why they took these sports is because no one pays attention to these sports, and so they were able to commit fraud. Look, this is not a jab at the rich or anything like this, but when you have fraudulent behavior like this that is training the next generation, that everything should just be given to them, that's a problem. And I think this is the problem with our culture at large. I work with young people every day at Campus Reform. They work hard, and they know if they were ever to submit something that was plagiarized, they would be gone just like that, just like that. But this new generation, where the rich are out here just teaching their kids that handouts should just be given to them, I think that's a problem.
But, there are a lot of parents who would do anything in the world to help their kids get ahead, whether it's trying to get into a good preschool or a high school or a college. But then again, this is just a whole new element where nobody had any idea that it was possible to essentially buy a really high SAT score.
Look, I was telling you guys off air that when I got my first participation trophy as a child playing basketball, my dad was so upset that he threw it across the parking lot. That's the type of household that
I don't want you to bring home a participation trophy. I want you to bring home the winner.
That's exactly right, but it starts right there. And we have a generation that is being coddled by their parents. They're going into college, and they believe that everything should be given to them. Just imagine what's going to happen to these kids when they go into workforce.
I know, that's the problem, because think about their parents. Their parents are famous actresses. They had to work so hard to get where they were. A lot of rejection, I'm sure. And look what they're teaching their kids.
And that's why I say rip all the kids out of school. Rip them all out. They don't deserve it.
They gotta go.
They gotta go. so all
and
these
they
people
took the
saying
places of people that really
exactly. There are a lot of people that worked hard for that, and the notion that these kids had no clue about this. Look at this one girl that was on the YouTube channel saying, you know, I really don't want to go to college. I just want to go to the parties and to the college game days. This is what we're dealing with right here. Rip them all out.
So listen to the Boston FBI agent. It read like a story. It was one of these political. It was one of these legal briefs. Listen.
We believe everyone charged here today had a role in fostering a culture of corruption and greed that created an uneven playing field for students trying to get into these schools the right way through hard work, good grades, and community service.
Do you think it's just this 50, Lawrence? I think this is going to get bigger and bigger, especially because they stumbled onto
That's
this.
exactly, and there's a lot of parents sitting at home probably watching this show right now. Scared, especially if they're Hollywood people. They're probably not squirming. They're probably watching CNN or some other network because this is the stuff that they believe. And these are people that always say, we want diversity. We want the minorities to be involved. We want people that are poor and less fortunate to have the opportunity to go to these colleges. And now look what they're doing. Oh, let's just give millions and then pay for our kids to get into the schools.
And I even thought about, too, is like, is it right that if I'm rich and if I'm a CEO of a major financial firm and I say, I'll build you a new science building for my kid to get in? Which I don't think is right either.
It is not merit-based. We don't need affirmative action. Look, everybody can get into school. We are a place in this country that if you have the right grades, that you have the right means. I understand there are people in less fortunate communities because that's where I came from, and I still got in because there's an opportunity in this country to do that. And I think we should be setting an example for these kids right now. That's why we need to pull them all out, and all the parents need to go to jail. Every last single one of them. And if you built the building and that was a reason why you got into school, that may not be against the law, but we need to review that as well.
I agree.
All right. Thanks, Lawrence.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks, guys.
The View fueling a conspiracy theory about First Lady Melania Trump and a body double.
I wasn't going to go along with this, but that one in that picture doesn't look like her. It's a different shaped face.
This morning, the First Lady's team is firing back.
Plus, a race gap in air pollution. That's the claim of a new study. David Webb says it's full of hot air. He ain't, and he's next. Coming up shortly. Hey, David.
All right, you got a new study claiming there's a significant race gap in the effects of air pollution.
The report argues that white Americans are largely at fault for the problem, saying pollution is, quote, disproportionately caused by consumption of goods and services, mainly by the non-Hispanic white majority, but disproportionately inhaled by black and Hispanic minorities.
Joining us now to react is Fox News contributor and host of Reality Check with David Webb on Fox Nation, David Webb. Hey, David, what's your reaction to this?
Well, should we apologize first as white Americans?
Well, I guess you should apologize because apparently I'm getting different pollution right here on this side of the couch.
Explain
Look,
what they're talking about.
It's gobbledygook. Go to the bottom of this USA Today story and you see that it's a peer-reviewed group. A lot of times these studies are done by people with agendas, these enviro-terrorists, these eco-terrorists. They want to sell you a narrative, so they peer-review it and say it's a study. They don't apply the scientific method. But let's be realistic about this. Yes, are there areas localized where there are air effects different than just pollution widely because of concentration of factories or concentration in an urban environment? That's air quality, and that's an issue worth discussing. But when you talk about what they're trying to sell you, you'd have to apply the entire mass of the planet. If you go to Africa where they burn more wood, more fibrous fuels, their pollution is worse because they're burning something that releases into the air. Central and South America, very similar.
David, is this the first time you've heard of pollution being essentially carved up into racial demographics?
Can you explain Africa to me? Because last time I checked, it's not a majority Caucasian country, but they have a pollution problem. Can you explain Asia, China for that matter, or parts of India? This is garbage. But instead of opening a discussion about what we do in urban environments, in other communities, in rural communities, to make sure air quality is better. Farm country, Ainsley, right? Combines, lots of dust, whatever. So what do? They resolve the issue. They don't go and write a peer-reviewed paper.
Here's what Jason Hill said, co-author of the study. Even though minorities are contributing less to overall problem of air pollution, they are affected by it more. Is it fair that I create more pollution and somebody else is disproportionately affected by it? That's the question they want to solve.
Yeah, guilt, stupidity, lack of logic and scientific method. But the problem is they never get us to the real discussions about what to do about these communities. This is a problem with this
what's the answer there?
The answer is to really do what we've done in this country. We've used technology. We've made factories cleaner. We've made communities cleaner. We've made cars cleaner. Our technology has advanced over the decades. Our communities are better. Now let's go help other countries, other parts of the world, because last time I checked, air doesn't stop at a national border.
We'll watch you every day on Fox Nation. Is that okay?
You got it. Reality check.
All right.
Bring it.
Thank you, Mr. Webb.
Thanks, David. Meanwhile, 4 minutes before the top of the hour, Elizabeth Warren says she's taking on big tech. But how does she explain taking tens of thousands of donations from big tech?
Stuart Varney on that. Plus, Dr. Oz, Jason Chaffetz, and Tammy Bruce are all here live.
Big show. Thank you.